Hi, welcome to class 3. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a little bit different because I want to talk to you about the assignment because this is kind of a fun one. It's called Where is Howard? I click on Where is Howard and then there's this picture of Howard right here. And what I'm going to want you to do is I'm going to want you to click on that and go Save Image As or Save Picture As and then save it onto our Photoshop drive. I've already got it, so I'm just going to save over it and download it. Now what I'm going to want you to do for this assignment is to take Howard out of this room, which is in Vietnam, and I want you to put him somewhere exotic. What I'm going to show you how to do in just a bit is stick him on Mars with the Eiffel Tower, and we'll play with that a little bit. So it's really kind of exciting to be able to do this, and I'm going to show you some really cool tools. So let's jump back here, and since we're going to want to be using Google, what I'm going to do is I am going to do a Google search. So we're going to do, I also want to put Brad Pitt on Mars, so I'm going to go Brad Pitt. And one of the nice things about this is tons of images. Since this is for a class, you got a lot of freedom because of not having to worry about copyright as much. It's called fair use, especially for education and learning how to do this. However, if you ever wanted to use one of these photos and then try to resell it, you need to be really careful because you'd be violating copyright unless you do a lot of changes. Well, what I'm going to do is, since I want Brad Pitt, it's going to be a little hot in Mars, so I'm going to click on Body. And let's see, I'm going to select this one because it looks like it's on the ocean. And it's a pretty nice size, so I'm going to click right there. I actually have a photo already saved. It looks something like this, so we could use that one or we could use this one. This is pretty nice size, so I can save it down. So all I have to do to save it is I once again come up here and go right click, go Save Image As, and then I want to rename it, but I don't want to name it that, so I'm just going to call it Brad Dash Pitt, and it's going to be a JPEG. I'm going to put JPG. So there I've taken a picture off of Google and been able to do that. Well, obviously for the Where's Howard assignment, you want to find somewhere exotic. So we could put him in outer space. We could put him in around the moons of Saturn or something like that. Let's go to Jupiter. Click on that. And what we could have him do is going down the hole in the Jupiter or something like that. So you got a lot of options. You don't have to do Jupiter. You can put him anywhere you want. This is supposed to be a fun assignment. He's been put on some of the most interesting things. One of the best, though, is one of my students put him on a magic carpet and then had him fly over Mars, which I thought was kind of cool. So there we go. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to come back here to Photoshop. I am going to go Open. And I am going to find Howard. Click on him right there and go Open. Now once again, I'm going to do a Control Plus to make him a little bit bigger, maybe another Control Plus to make him just a tad bit more. Now the tool that I'm going to use right off the bat is going to be this Quick Select tool right here. And what I do is I click on it. Notice I've got several options up here in the ribbon. This is one of them. If you're going to try to do the shoes, that might be a little bit too big of a brush. I'm going to use that lower bracket to make it just a teeny bit smaller for that area right there. Now notice that I'm not getting up at the edge, I'm going down the middle. That's a key part. If you try to get at the edge, it's one of those weird things that you'll probably not do it. And this quick select tool doesn't work that well right up against the edge on the first go around. So you notice that I'm going right down the middle. There, I got most of that. And I missed a tiny bit here, so this is where I can go small little click, get that. And I missed a little part right there, small little click, and small little click. Oh, missed a little spot right there. Once again, I can blow this up a little bit more. Scroll down here to make sure I got a good representation of him. I'm pretty close there. If I wanted to, I could go maybe just a teeny bit of minus right there. Get in close. There you go. No, that's pretty good. I did a oops, missed a spot there, so I can go. Now notice once again, I'm not getting right up against the edge until I have to, so I do single clicks, not a click and drag. Go a little bit there to get his tennis shoe. If I wanted to, maybe a little bit there, a little bit there. Now I'm getting close to the edge, but it's just a single click, not a click and drag. And if I absolutely wanted to, I could do some other tools later on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control C, which copies it. So what I've just done is I've copied Howard. Now I can do this. I can go File, Open. And earlier today what I did is I opened up Mars, one of the pages that I'm now going to go with that copy. I'm going to go Edit, Paste. And then what I can do is I don't have to live with him sitting on there. I can make him a little bit smaller if I wanted to, or I can make this bigger too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Howard and I'm going to rotate him just slightly. So I'm going to go Edit, Free Transform, or Control T. And I'm going to come up here. I could click this selection box to make him a little bit smaller. If I wanted to keep him proportional, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my Shift key and drag it at the corner like that. Now I want him to be able to slide down this hill, so I'm going to click and drag around that selection button, not at it, but around it. And notice how I can rotate a little bit like that, and then I can just go something like that and make it just a teeny bit smaller. And once I've got it positioned where I want to, I can just go double click. So now I've got Howard on Mars. But I think this is kind of a boring picture of Mars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my quick select tool, but I want to get rid of this background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right there, click on it, and I'm going to use this quick select tool like that. And then what I want to do is I am going to flip it around. So I'm going to select and I'm going to inverse. So what essentially I'm doing is I'm selecting everything except Howard. I'm actually going to turn him off. Oops, I want to get that. Let's go. Come on, be nice. Oops. I don't like that. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the delete key. And since I have deleted, what I can do is I can add something else. So what I want to do is I'm going to come back to good old Google, and I'm going to look for space. Oops, that's not how you spell space. And go images. I kind of like this size even though it's really big, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this image as, and I'm going to call it space. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and go File, Open. I'm going to open that space that I just stole. Now this is going to be one of the cool tricks that I'm going to show you how to do. I'm going to take this layer of space, I'm going to click and drag it up here until I get over this tab, and I'm going to drop it down right about there. Now you're going to say, why did I do that? Because I've replaced everything. Well, first of all, I'm going to get rid of those marching ants or that selection by doing Control D, and then I'm going to call this background. And then I'm going to drag it there, and now space looks a little bit different. Mars looks, I better name that. I should name that Mars. And it's a very good habit to get in and to name your layers, because if you get too many layers, it's going to be easy to make a mistake. One of the biggest things that I do is I grab the wrong layer and start working on it and not really paying attention, and I make some stupid little things, and then I have to back out of what I've done. Well, and I better call this one Howard. And then I bring him back there. Now you could be done with it, but I want to make it look a little bit more realistic. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I can make them a little bit smaller if I wanted to, but what I really want to do is use some other tools that will make it look a lot better. So I'm going to do the burn tool here because it's way too light. I could use the dodge, I could use the burn, I could use the sponge tool. Now the sponge tool takes some of the color out, the burn tool makes it darker, the dodge tool makes it lighter. So I'm going to go burn, and then I got to make sure I'm on the Howard layer, and how I know that is because it's selected right here. And then what I can do is I can just make them a little bit darker, because that looks much more realistic, because he's not going to be that bright out there. So you're just taking some of the lightness out of it, and it looks so much more realistic when you do it that way. There we go. Now one of the other things I'm going to do is, even though this is an actual picture of Mars, what I can do is I can highlight it by going Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little more color to it by adding some saturation. Now if I wanted to, I can play a little bit more, make it a little bit more red, because everybody thinks it's the red planet. Or I can make it like this, and then I can also play with make it a little bit lighter, because Howard's a little bit lighter. I kind of like it darker. I take that back. And I go OK. Now when we start playing with layer mask, which is actually the best way to do it, this destructive stuff can be kind of dangerous, because you may change your mind and then you have to jump way back in the timeline in order to, or in the history, to make things the way you want it. Whereas if you have a layer mask, you just turn off the mask or you change the mask. So here I was playing around with the highlights. I could do some more with the midtones of the shadows for the burn on Howard. Oh, now it's too much, but well, I don't like what I did. I do Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, until I get to a point. Now another way I could have done it was Window, History. What's nice about the history is it remembers everything I've done. So maybe I want to add that back in. I can go and bring it back that way. So it's just different ways of doing it. No, go there. Yeah, there. Just jump around in history. So now I've done my assignment. Well, obviously I want you to do a little bit more detailed than that. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some more fun because I'm going to go, first of all, I'm going to move Howard just a little bit over here, and I may make him a little bit smaller. So I'm going to do Control T. Once again, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. I'm going to grab that corner by clicking and dragging and let go there. So I've got space here. I don't need that anymore. I've got Howard here. I don't need him anymore. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Open, and I am going to steal Brad Pitt. Now later on in the semester, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make Brad Pitt pregnant. I'm also going to make him into Wolverine because I heard a rumor he might be the next Wolverine. That's a lie. I just thought it sounded good though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my quick select tool. I'm going to go down here, and to be honest with you, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to do a masking, and the reason I want to do that is so I can show you some of the cool tricks that you can use with this. So once again, notice that I'm not getting right at the edge because you don't want to until you get near completed. And what you do is then instead of dragging, you just get near that where you want and click, and a little bit of click right there, click right there. Now I'm going to do select and mask. Now I can change with the opacity, so if I create a mask, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be nothing there. Now what I can do is I can do a thing called Smart Radius when I do this selection. And what it does is it tries to guess. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow me to get a little bit closer to that. One of the mistakes that most people don't realize is, pictures are not as jagged as this will lead you to believe. Now let's, I'm on the smoothing again. There we go. And if I want to refine the edges a little bit, like around here, to get some of his hair that's kind of, there we go. Now I'm gonna output to a layer mask, but the other thing I can do is that if I wanted to just cut him out, I could just output to select. But I'm going to do layer mask so I can show you the difference between the two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go output to layer mask, and I'm going to click on OK. And now what happens is the picture is still there, but what I've done is I've created a mask so it hides everything else. So the blue, the ocean around here is hidden from the mask. And if I wanted to get rid of some of the, like I've got too much here, I am going to use a smaller brush. And now notice that this is white, so white is what's showing. So if I want to get rid of something right in there, I can use my paint tool, make sure I have black. Oh, make that much smaller because that's bigger. And what I can do is I can slowly kind of give the illusion of erasing. I'm just masking it like that. So now I'm very happy with this. I am gonna double click on this and call it Brad. And then once again, I'm gonna take this layer and I'm gonna click and drag it up here to Mars until I get this tab to show up, and then I come down here and drag it and let go. So now here's Brad. So now I have Brad Pitt on Mars. I've got Howard on Mars. I would probably want to blow this up a little bit more because I've got, in my opinion, too much white around there. And I can erase, or I can use that, click over here and use some black. So I'm going to use a black brush again just to kind of get rid of some of the ghosting image, like right on there. You know, once again, this is one of those that you want to do small steps so you get rid of stuff. If you make a mistake, you can just do Control Z. If you make one big long stroke and then you make a mistake at the very end, then you have to start all the way over from scratch. So that's why it's better to do just smaller sections like that. Now I'm getting in a hurry, so I'm going to be lazy. And notice I kind of missed part of it too. And I kind of like that. So there I've got Brad Pitt. Now I'm going to do Control 1 to get to the normal size. And if I want to take the Brad layer and do Control T, which is going to transform it, once again I can resize it. I click on the Shift key because I want to keep it proportional. And I'm going to drag it down like that. And then click here to drag it up just a teeny bit and double click. So now I've got Brad Pitt and Howard on Mars, and since men are from Mars and women are from Venus, that's quite appropriate. So now I've made all these changes. I'm going to go File, Save. And then what it's going to allow me to do is save it as that PSD, and I want to save it as a PSD. But I'm going to change it just a little bit Mars, and I'm going to go Brad dash Howard. And the reason I do the dashes is if you're going to do a web page, it does not like spaces in file names. So this will be completely web appropriate when I export it out as a JPEG. So now I'm ready. I can go File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. Since last time I was on it, it was a JPEG. It's high. And man, I am just so lucky. I'm still under the 100K, so I don't have to really worry about my assignment for this. Now, if you make it too big, you're going to have to play around, and once again, you either play with the resolution quality, which this is very good. I might even go down to a medium, which makes it even smaller in file size. If I was way over, then I would have to start playing around with the percentage. So I'm just going to hit save and save. There we go.